Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we crown a champion inside the world's greatest arena in the greatest city in the world. It's Madison Square Garden. It is the Big East Tournament title game coming up between Villanova and Creighton. I'm John Fanta. He is Kyron Cartwright, the Providence great. He is the Hall of Famer, the UConn legend, Jim Calhoun, with us tonight. And welcome to Madison Square Garden. We are setting the table for a big night here inside MSG. Fox pregame will get going at 6 Eastern time, so do not go anywhere as we take a look at the bracket. Here's how we've gotten here in this tournament. Creighton rolling past Providence in the semifinals, 85-58. What a statement from the Blue Jays. 2 weeks ago, this team was on the bubble. Forget about that. They're 40 minutes away from a title. And Villanova winning a war over UConn, 63-60. What a game. Jermaine Samuels going for 21 and 12. So, Coach Calhoun, you've coached in these games. Championship Saturday night at the Garden. What's going on in the minds of Jay Wright and Greg McDermott right now?
It's better to be here than at home. And I said it because these two teams, I think, are pretty well assured of playing after this. But I think the idea of being a Big East champ, we were fortunate enough, I think, between regular season and here, 17 Big East championships. My point being is that there's not many better feelings than a man here knows very well to beat the guys that you play against all the time, regular season. And as you said, the world's greatest arena. Special, special time. And I think Jay and I talked 100 years ago about just do a limited number of things well. You can't do a gazillion things. And they're very good at that, by the way. And I think Creighton's found something. I don't know if they go inside a lot more. The point guard can't create. They don't have the same kind of point guard. And it's a great time to play for a championship in the best place to play.
When you were getting ready in 2018 for the Big East Championship game, tell us what that day was like, that ride up the elevator, that trip inside the locker room before you hit the court.
I mean, it starts the night before. Obviously, you just played. You got to make sure you hydrate, you stretch, you take care of your body. Make sure you're not playing around. You're not on your phone. You don't want any distractions. So you go to sleep, you wake up, you get good food, and you just try to think about the matchups. What can I do? What one play can I make that might help us get over the hump? And you just try to take that with you to the court. And once you get to the court, your mindset starts to shift. After you're warming up, you're just trying to make sure that you're locked in. You're trying to be perfect.
Let's talk about the 2 seed in this tournament first. Villanova, 63-60 win over Connecticut, a 66-65 win over St. John's the night before. So combined average margin of victory there, that's 4. That's 4. And now this team finds themselves in the championship game. Why are the Wildcats here tonight?
Because they're tough. They do a limited number of things, not well, but great. And they grind games. There's 2 things, if you notice. Early in the game, take a lot of threes. Always have. Okay, secondly, to even get a way back, when they get that lead, both times, what they do, they spread it, they grind you, they post up everybody. That will be a major problem. They may be able to take the kid from Creighton out, our big guy, who I'm falling in love with. Okay, he'll block shots. The way they play it, they're going to put him outside to try to guard somebody who can shoot the ball. My point is, very simply, they're here because they do something incredibly well. And by the way, they come to war on defense. I cannot believe how physical they are.
I think Villanova, there's never a playoff offensively or defensively. When you're on defense, they're banging bodies. There's constant movement. There's never a point where anybody on their team is just standing around. So you have to work hard. You never get to catch your breath.
They're a great jump stop team as well. And you know this, the fundamentals of the game are different today than they were when you were on the sidelines. I mean, they play that throwback style, Coach.
Yeah, but they play it by shooting today's style, which is a 3-point, get there by jump stop, turn, pivot, and make good plays, and the post-up. I don't think we can underestimate how important that becomes. When Gillespie's in the post, he can score, and in 10 assists last night, he can really pass the ball out there too.
How do they do what they do?
I mean, it just has to be from the outside looking in, just drilling. They all do everything the same exact way. Every time you go into the lane, there's a jump stop, there's a pivot, and most of the time, I think they throw the most bounce passes in America. You know, that's uncommon these days, and they always make the right reads.
Wildcats trying to win what would be their 5th Big East tournament title since 2015.
Didn't realize that.
They are now 6-0 in Big East semifinals since 2015. They have the one loss in the championship game back in 2016 to Seton Hall. You gave them a great game that went to overtime. Ed Cooley ripped his pants.
He did. He did.
I love it.
I think we ran out of gas, personally, in my opinion. You know, that might have been one of the most historic runs besides winning the championship for Providence, because we played in overtime every single game.
It's interesting that you say run out of gas, because Creighton has been controlling in their 2 wins. They're a team that didn't have to go necessarily through the wars that Villanova has gone through. We will talk about the Blue Jays after our first time out here on a championship edition of Big East Shootaround. Welcome back to Big East Shootaround, ahead of the Big East Championship game tonight from the world's most famous arena. He is Kyron Cartwright. He's played in a Big East title game for the Providence Friars. He's the Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun, and I'm John Fanta. And let's talk about these Creighton Blue Jays. In 8 Big East tournaments, the Jays have been to the championship game 4 times. That's a pretty good batting average, if I do say so myself, but they're trying to win it for the first time here tonight. And this team blowing out a Providence Friars group that was 25-4 going into yesterday after a win over Marquette. A young Jays team that lost their starting point guard, Ryan Nembhard, to the year with a wrist injury just over 2 weeks ago, is now 40 minutes away from a title. So, Kyron, when you look at the Jays and what they've been able to do, how are they in this position?
I think they're just getting hot at the right time. You talk about making important shots and big shots. Right now, they're shooting 50-40 splits, 50% from the field, 40% from the three-point line, and that's hard to guard because they're moving the ball, they're getting in the lane, and they're taking really high percentage shots.
Coach, what do you see in the Blue Jays?
Yeah, change the strategy a little bit, even though Greg McDermott wasn't making changes as far as what he ran, how he ran it and who he ran it to. The ball is getting inside in the post, and that's creating some awfully good things. You don't fall in love with this kid a little bit, but he's a player. They get the ball into the post, and he's not the only guy that can score in the post. I just think the inside game is creating all the good outside action.
It's interesting because in our first segment we talk about how Villanova does it the old school way, but goes to the new way. Creighton plays through Ryan Kalkbrenner and Ryan Hawkins, bigger players, and off that they've been able to shoot over 40% from three.
Yeah, and they're not a great three-point shooting team, but with everybody collapsing into the post, they're a lot more open than they have been. You make adjustments, and guess what? Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they're a disguised miracle, I call it.
Obviously, you've been an opponent of Greg McDermott's Creighton teams. What makes them so tough to play?
They're very versatile. His teams adapt very well, and during the game, you got to make adjustments. I think they always adjust very well. Whatever the game needs, if they need to slow down, usually they can run a set. really well, execute and get a wide open shot. And in transition, the Jays have always been a transition team. If they get open threes, you know it's going up.
Alex O'Connell with the 18 points yesterday in the win over Providence. Then you had Arthur Kaluma, the freshman forward, who's really giving them a. What have you seen in his game?
I like the word multi-purpose. I mean, he does a lot of things. And when a guy, what was he, 6'6", good size, active, runs, shoots at some, can go to the rim some, post up some. He's a good player. And, you know, when other kids go down in the point guard, it certainly was a terrific young player, other guys shine. And that's what's happened to this team. And the thing I said before the game, I was kidding people on Fox about this, very simply, they can get buckets. Teams that can get buckets don't have long sessions of getting down. And so I think you said, no, they're finding themselves, is a better word, I think. They're finding themselves.
Well, they certainly have, and they've done it. To think that you lose your starting point guard this late in the season, and he's a freshman, and he was playing over 24 minutes per game, and you've replaced him with another freshman in Trey Alexander. Have you ever encountered something like that, like this late in the year, you had an injury and you had to figure out a way to adapt?
Well, it was 2009. We lost... we went to the Final Four originally, lost a 6 overtime game here to Syracuse, etc. We lost a kid named Jerome Dyson. Jerome Dyson was a 15-point scorer coming off the bench. He was our sixth man, our microwave. And the adjustment, I always thought that year with the Shrimp beat and some of the guys we had, we could have won a national championship. And we adjusted, but we were never the same without that spark. Sometimes the adjustment works out better for you. I mean, those are the things you have to do. And these aren't ones you're thinking about. These ones you have no choice on.
Wow. Really interesting stuff, and you're seeing what this Blue Jays team has been able to do, making it to this Big East championship. What an accomplishment. Can they have a fourth times the charm moment here tonight? Hey, pregame's coming up on Fox at 6 Eastern time, but when we come back, we go around the Big East with some news and notes, and these guys make their predictions for the evening ahead.
Before Title IX was passed, the number of girls and women who were in a position to play sports was really relatively low. There were, walls that had to be broken down. Well, the principal way that Title IX has helped at the collegiate level has been in the increase in the number of participants. The Big East currently sponsors 22 sports, and 12 of them are women's sports. We work very hard here to make sure that what we do for our female athletes is equitable. When I think about the journey of women's sports in our country over the last 50 years, it really is extraordinary.
When basketball was first invented in 1891, it was racially segregated like the rest of American society. But that didn't stop Edwin Henderson, a black gym teacher, from introducing the game of basketball to African Americans on a wide-scale, organized basis in the early 1900s. This era became known as the Black Fives era. During Black History Month, the Big East will honor 22 teams from the Black Fives era to recognize their many contributions to the sport of basketball.
Welcome back to Big East Shootaround ahead of the Big East Championship game from our SoFi studios. He is Kyron Cartwright. He is Coach Calhoun. I'm John Fanta, and let's go around the Big East because our coverage does not conclude tonight. The big dance lies ahead, and we are roughly 24 hours away from seeing what the selection committee comes up with. Mike DeCourcy, Fox College Hoops bracketologist, put this out here today. He has 7 Big East teams dancing. If you take a look at what he's got Xavier in, the last 4 in. Villanova leads the way with a 3 seed. Providence is in there with a 4. And take a look at UConn, a UConn team that's gotten up to the 5 line. It'll be very intriguing to see where the committee puts Connecticut. You see Seton Hall involved in an 8-9 game. The Pirates have had that up and down season, but still getting enough respect to be up in a single digit. Marquette and Creighton on the 10 line. Xavier in the last 4 in. Coach Calhoun, what's that like when you're waiting on Selection Sunday and you're in that predicament of waiting and hoping and thinking?
When you're having a beginning year, just to get it going, you're close, it's a difficult thing because your mind is swirling. And the other end of it, you're really thinking, I asked to go west. Because of our fan base, John Thompson used to take his team out to Georgetown teams out west. So I say, if you can give me a higher seed, I'll be more than happy to move west. We won 3 of our 4 national championships. We played the Sweet 16 and Final 8. out west, Phoenix, and
You
gotta
like the
think-
weather?
No, I like being away from my fans. I love them, but the distraction for tickets and all the other different things. If we're in Philly or New York, it's a lot more difficult. You got to think of all things, and I was smart enough to listen to someone like John Thompson.
Listen to Big John. He never steered anybody wrong.
No, he didn't.
Kyron, what's the thought process when you're a team, you're waiting, you're hoping?
It's nerve-wracking because you don't know who you're going to play. And just sitting there, sometimes you don't know if you're going to make it. So, tensions are high in the room sometimes. You're sitting there, your mind's racing. Hopefully you see your name called, and when you do, sometimes you hope your teammates have watched enough basketball to where, okay, you're familiar with that team, so we might have a little advantage because we haven't played them in the league sometimes.
If not, you were leading a film session that night on them.
Definitely.
That is something. In that room, waiting, tomorrow night will be quite the fun in the Big East Conference. We'll see if 7 do, in fact, make it. Those Xavier Musketeers right on that cut line. It'll be interesting to see what the committee does. Let's get to keys to the game. Coach, let's begin with Creighton. What's your key for the Blue Jays?
I got to assume there's no question in my mind that the key to the game for them is a team that has to keep doing what it does and play terrific defense at times. And I think we said they're on fire.
I think the key to the game for the Jays is defensive rebounding. If you look at the numbers, it would sound kind of odd because in this tournament, the Jays are plus 31 on the board and Villanova is minus 25 by the margin. But Villanova, the first game, had 16 offensive rebounds. Dixon had, I think, about 7 in 14 minutes. That's a huge impact. And then last night, Jermaine Samuels, 30 seconds left, gets a big-time rebound, which eventually led to him getting fouled with 15 seconds left, and he gives them a 2-possession game with a little bit of cushion and makes the game more comfortable for them.
Let's turn to Villanova. Kyron, you're up first. What's your key?
My key is post defense. Last night, Villanova played a little bit undersized inside, but I think they held the UConn Bigs to 6 of 18 on close-range shots. But Ryan Kalkbrenner, he's shooting 11 for 14, 29 points. That's a really high percentage. So it'll be interesting to see how they can be physical with him inside without fouling, and if they can contest and, disrupt a little bit of what he has going on.
I think Villanova, once they get into their grind game, they don't score easily. Everything is a little bit of a struggle. They can't have a 4 or 5 minute session without scoring, because one thing, there's no doubt in my mind, Creighton can score, and they don't want to get behind to that. Tough playing Villanova plus down 6-7 points. And if Villanova, with this team, the Blue Jays can score 12, no scoring drought.
The offense has come along for Creighton, and they've been the best defensive team in the Big East this season, according to the metrics, according to points allowed. This Creighton team has taken on a defensive identity. Well, let's see what America thinks. We asked you who will win the Big East championship game, and here is that poll result. 53.9% of the country is taking Villanova tonight. Creighton with 46%. Look, that's pretty tight.
I think the way the Jays are playing, it's hard to count them out. It's simply just hard to count them out. They're making so many winning plays. They're energized out there, and it looks like they're having so much fun.
The difference is 7 in that poll,
Yep.
which my alter ego Dale knows that's the difference that
Yeah.
others have in other sectors. That being said, time to make a prediction here. Coach, what do you have here tonight? Who's going to win the
I'm
Big
really
East?
torn, but I'm going to come down with experience. I just think been there, done that, and I think that's what Villanova done. They seem to finish off games better than anybody else in the league. Therefore, Villanova close.
I'm also torn. It's a hard decision, but I think I would also go with Nova. They just have so much championship experience. They've been there. They've done it multiple times, and it's just kind of their culture.
Man, it's like when we're all on set. Do I give a pick, producer? We've come this far, 40 years of the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden, right? 40 years. And if this tournament has taught us anything, it is that you should expect the unexpected. You know this, Coach. Sometimes when you're riding a wave, that wave never stops when you're inside this building. And Creighton appears to be riding a wave that they will ride to their first Big East Tournament championship here tonight. I am picking Greg McDermott's Creighton Blue Jays to perhaps shock some people here this evening, but they are red hot. They're hitting threes. That was something that wasn't always happening earlier in the season, shooting 43% from three. So I'm going to take the Blue Jays to paint this building blue in their colors and win this game. What a stage we have set here tonight. So I went a little bold.
Well, you rode the wave. I see that. The wave get up there, crested, etc., and you went big. I like that.
Can't go small in the Big East.
You can't. You can't. I feel like that's a bold prediction, but, you know, if you watch the games, it doesn't seem like it's impossible. It never.
No,
It's
It
not
seems like it's
impossible.
very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible.
It looked like a win over these 2 nights without question.
What happened when you were counted out of UConn?
I never counted us out, and my kids never counted themselves out. That's the only important thing.
Right.
That's the only important thing.
And those Creighton guys are not counting themselves out.
And you know what? They have no damaged tissue. They haven't been through a lot of losses. That program's won pretty consistently. They have no damaged tissue. They have no things to say, remember when? Hey, we're winning. We're playing well.
Well said. Coach Calhoun, Kyron Cartwright, John Fanta saying so long for now. Get over to Fox. 6 Eastern time. Rob Stone, Steve Lavin, Donnie Marshall. They have your pregame show. And then Gus Johnson, Jimmy Jackson, Christina Pink will have the call for you tonight on Fox. It's the Big East Championship game for all the marbles in this league. Villanova, they've been the powerhouse of this conference. These young Creighton Blue Jays trying to make school history tonight. Great step, guys.
Good.